everybody just got to appreciate that. This woman hit all of that choreography in drum rhythm. Thank you. Seriously, I'm looking to die. The energy in here is incredible. And if I was ever going to do a drinking game to that, I would have just done a shot every time I heard work. That would have just put me on my bum. Damn. So, whew, this is all happening. It's very, very good. You're welcome. Also, I know half the song. So I am so excited that we have not only 3 of the directors, but no, I'm sorry. I probably would have led with that. Actually, you know what? Before I bring them up, I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to take a picture of you guys. Let's go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, hey! Okay. It was a lot of light, but it was great. It was great. So, let me bring down Jim first. I think because he sat through and just soaked in all those good, juicy energy. So, we have Parkwood Entertainment, Beyonce's company. Yes. Mr. Jim Savey is here. Jim is the worldwide director of marketing. He is one of the many midwives. I can call you a midwife, right? For all of this business. So we're very lucky to have Mr. Jim Savey here from Parkwood. All right, another director who sat through a lot of that, and I hope just sort of like let it wash over him, is phenomenal. You know all of these directors from lots of work. I'm going to keep it specific to what they did with this. So, this director of what you just saw did a little video called Partition. A little video for Flawless. And then something called Grown Woman. So, I would like to bring you down Jake Nava. Herself, someone with a long, great history with the boss, as she's referred to, the new boss, I guess. And she directed Pretty Hurts. Miss Melina Matsoukas. All right, and then finally is with great aplomb. Super excited to bring down the director of 2 fine videos you just saw. Haunted? Yes. And Superpower. Mr. Jonas Ackerman. All right, that's it. We're not even going to talk. I just wanted to see something. Just kidding. So thank you guys so much for joining us all together now, right? Jim and I talked briefly about this, but the genesis of how all of this came about, because it was such, not just a monumental undertaking because it was a surprise, but like production-wise, bringing in all these artists, and I refer to directors as artists because this is a film festival, and I have respect. But going far back, I know Jonas is one of the first people that you talked to about it, long ago in Sweden. Yes? You went, you played some music. Do you have any recollections of the beginning?
Well, no, I just remember, I was probably the first one you spoke to, but I was probably the last one you ended up shooting. So it took,
that's exactly right.
From listening to the music, it took almost a year before we actually shot it. Yeah. Right? All of you?
Yeah, no, that was here.
All right. Were you just standing around in your living room in Sweden, like, yes?
Kind of.
This could be a music video from there.
Yeah.
You're killing it.
That's how it works.
Awesome. And then, could you, Melina, Jake, how did you, at what stage did you get brought in? Because you both had collaborative paths before, I mean.
After you said.
I started first working on Grown Woman, which actually got started up before a lot of the others, and took a long time to make. And a lot of the reason it took a long time to make was that animating the mouth, doing the special effect on the little kid's mouth was a very laborious process. And it was one where, you know, me and also Beyonce kept looking at it, and obviously it's not real, and so you want it to look real, and she's imagining how she would have really looked when she was a kid, and we're sort of trying to get it better and better. Little scenes to that, and I think that might have been the first one to start getting made. So I think in a way, she said to me anyway that she felt like she was trying to put a lot of ideas into that one, and we kept shooting more ideas for it. And then as she got into doing all the others, then that edit got slightly simpler, and we started going into production on Partition and then Flawless always.
It sounds really like a terrible time. Melina, I know, like, for music video directors in general, oftentimes you guys are the creators of the concepts. You come up with the little treatments and the ideas, and this is a little different because it was so symbiotic with the music that she was creating. And I know Pretty Hurts especially has so many like personal things wrapped up into it. How did that all like break through, and when you were shaping the video itself and the story of it?
I think when it started, we weren't sure what song we were actually gonna do a video for, and she sent me Pretty Hurts, and she said she wanted to do something that was about the pageant world and about, you know, beauty and kind of superficiality surrounding that idea. And so I just kind of took it and ran with it, you know, tried to do something edgy and provocative and had something to say. And she liked it, and she wanted to take it further. I remember being on set, and she wanted to go darker and, you know, do the kind of and taking pills and all that stuff. So it kind of developed more on set and
Did you all find, because I think there's an interesting darkness overall, and I don't mean like a bummer uncle sort of situation, but just like, you guys know that kind of darkness, but a maturity to it, and there's something to all of the visuals that are kind of pushing new territory. Were you ever feeling like you were being challenged to come up with things that were like broader and darker, kind of what you're speaking to?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you work with Beyonce, you're trying to challenge yourself and do something that she hasn't done, you know, more so than, at least for me.
She's getting harder and harder.
These guys are a bit more senior, but, you know, she's definitely done more videos than I have. So, trying to bring her into a world to do something that she hasn't done becomes a challenge, you know, so I think this is actually represents something as a whole that she hasn't done and shows the diversity of who she is as an artist.
Jonas, hey, what's up? For yours, like, because I do think there's such an interesting, like, a visual grittiness to it that's not what you expect from a pop star, and as much as pop star is always kind of derided as this flippant sort of thing, like, it's a popular star, which is very much what she is. But you were working with, everyone was, but I think yours especially touch on that, like, really different scenarios that have, like a very particular space represented. Were you coming up with all of those, or were you like, oh, so there's this hotel thing, and there's like these rooms, and we enacted them, and we're like, it'll be great.
Yeah, I did, but like Jake said, it's for me. I really wanted to do something that she hadn't done before, and it was the first videos I'd done with her, so. I had it in my head all the time to figure something out that she'd never done before. And the thing is that we didn't know what all the other video directors were doing. So we were kind of like, I didn't even know that it was going to be a series until way later, till I was done actually. I knew she was shooting other videos, but I didn't know there was going to be, like they're all going to be released at the same time and all that. So, but in terms of ideas, you know, she had a lot of things to say, and I've always tried to turn that into reality and figured out what exactly that is. So it was a collaboration, but in the specific ideas in the rooms in Haunted, we actually had way more. we shot a lot more and we had a lot of great ideas. But
What did you shoot that you didn't end up showing?
I cannot tell you.
Oh. Okay, at least you know I asked. Jim, actually, then a question for you. In terms of, because that's interesting to me, I didn't know if you guys were all like complicit, like, all right, I got this one. Hope you guys are having fun over there. So it sounds like it was just like this elaborate, around the world, just renegade happening.
Maybe everybody else knew, but I didn't.
Yeah. So we brought you here today to explain to you that everyone else knew. Yeah. Jim, can you say on your side, I know Todd Torso was the creative director and also did 2 of the videos himself. Were you guys like tracking, like to me, I'm imagining sort of that like poster board from A Beautiful Mind, of just like keeping track of all of these different things and like the themes. Like, do we have a trophy somewhere else? Like, yes, it's here. Is there a key? You know. You are ruining it when they find out I know all of you. Was there someone pulling all of these like boards and knowing all of these things, or were some of these things happy accidents?
You know, I think that this project began really as a visual project for Beyonce. You know, it really started with Jake and Grown Woman. I mean, that song was one of the first songs that was recorded for the record. But as she's sort of talked about in the documentary that's associated with this record, she really does see music when she's in the studio. And as she progressed through the recording process, and what was so interesting for us when Leanne and myself, Leanne, the GM of Beyonce's company, flew to Sweden and played a couple of songs for Jonas. I think we played you 4 songs. Yeah. And we started talking about what was so interesting visually about each song, and what was the theme, and what was the thought process, and who was the writer, and you know, she really wanted to develop this record as a visual project. And so the directors were incredibly important from the beginning of the process. And I remember her sitting on the floor in the office one day, and we were talking about, you know, Jonas had been originally inspired by Superpower. I think it was one of the first songs you identified. I want to write for that. And we threw the doors wide open and started talking to a lot of people Beyonce has worked with in the past, people she felt would challenge her visually, do things she's never done before. And I think that's a key point to what Melina was talking about. Everything that she does, you know, comes from a place of wanting to challenge herself artistically. So we really did look for directors who had ideas, were looking to collaborate, would listen to songs and come up with new ways of presenting them. So.
That was a really good answer. It's like you are a professional who does things professionally. Thank you. So I'm wondering, shooting-wise, did you guys have anything, any interesting anecdotes? Anything go awry? Anything that would delight the masses?
When doesn't it go awry?
Exactly, yeah, it's production. I know you handed Jake the microphone knowing that he probably has something.
On Partition, when we were doing the thing with Beyonce and Jay in the back of the car, that was actually like just in a little alleyway right next to Crazy Horse, which is the sort of you know, burlesque kind of club that's featured in the video. She does some of the routines from that in the video. And you know, it was obviously exciting to think that there was going to be this romantic vibe between them, because you know they're not that often seen together, and I kind of was really keen to catch some of the intimacy and the magic of them, and yet the pressure was kind of on, because basically the dance bit in the club had taken as long as I expected, and perhaps a little bit longer than people thought it might take, you know, because she's a perfectionist and she doesn't have a lot of rehearsal time these days, so we end up spending a bit of time polishing things on the set, even when she assures me that that's not going to happen. So we did end up doing that, and it was fine and right to do that. And obviously Jay was there, and there's that shot of him watching her in the club, and then we went to go upstairs, and it just got more and more of a time crunch. So in the end, we did that scene in very few minutes, like maybe 10 or 15, and then Jay was trying to get out to get into his car. By then there was like a police escort waiting to take him to the airport, to the heliport in Paris, to get him across to his own concert that night. So even though even though I was sort of thinking, oh, you know, he's going to want to, you know, he's going to give it a bit of extra time. He really had to go, and it was quite funny to watch her pushing him because she wanted to stay and make her video better, but he had to go and do his concert. So she was like, just one more. And in the end, he left and she followed and went with him. But it was kind of exciting in that there was a police escort waiting outside to whiz them through the city to get them off after the show and stuff.
So what I'm hearing is their actual life is like the video. Don't ruin it for me. That's a good takeaway. How about you guys? Any excited? Jonas, I know you're just sitting there wanting to tell me something.
No, nothing was wrong. Everything is always perfect.
Well, my shoot was totally wrong. It was probably the most challenging shoot I've ever had, and definitely I've ever had with her. Not because of her at all, but my crew quit. Where did they do that at? Harvey Keitel almost murdered me.
That's all the time. Yeah.
Well, for some reason it was just taking the longest time to set up, and we were in New York, and I've already been banned from shooting in New York because I may have talked a little shit in an interview about it. But people were taking longer than normal to set up and get shooting, and after a certain amount of time, they decided that they were going to leave. And they didn't care if, we didn't get it. And that's never happened to me before. And so we're shooting. We still have maybe a couple more setups. We were on the stage in the auditorium of the school. And we didn't do the end where, who wins or any of that. And we were shooting a scene before, and I had promised Harvey Keitel after he graciously stayed the whole day, and just there because he's an amazing actor and wanted to be a part of the project. And had been waiting maybe 20 hours. And I told him we would shoot his close-up, and my producer comes behind and they're like, well, the crew is going to leave in 5 minutes, so you have to move on. So after promising Harvey that I would shoot his close-up, I said, okay, well, we're going to move on to the next setup. And he was like, me and you are having a miscommunication. It's not working for me. So I was like, okay, well, you're right. We're going to shoot your close-up. And I turned around and we shot Harvey's close-up. And Beyonce looked at me and I was like, you can tell him, but I'm not going to end up in a hole somewhere. So we did that, and then right away I just, I didn't yell cut, and we just went into the next scene, and we did it in one take, and then everybody quit. And we came back and snuck and maybe don't. And shot a little pickup day with a smaller crew and got around some things, but it was just a challenge.
That's a lot. And music video shoots, if you haven't worked in music video, they are like nothing else because everyone's like, oh, it's just a day or 2 days or 3 days or whatever. I mean, max, 3 days is a lot for most videos. And they're they're grinds. They're 18, 19 hours of shooting. I mean, legally, all within whatever legal parameters there are. But yeah, they are intense things. And the fact that they're generally so beautiful to look at is just such a crazy juxtaposition. So speaking of beauty, an interesting thing I noted about each one is Beyonce's smoking hot, and that comes across really well in everybody's work. So good job. There was a lot of heavy lifting.
That was really difficult.
Yeah, it's all about the lighting, I'm sure. But it's so sexy. There's so much sexiness, and it's different. I'm very old. I'm probably older than everyone here. True story. I have great skin, but I'm very old. And I remember, when I came up, music videos, women in them were vixens on cars. And I've got nothing against a vixen on a car. I don't want to make it seem that way. But there's such a difference in how she comes across on screen, and that it's so sexy but still so powerful. I feel like a lot of it is because there's no shame in her game, but I'm wondering when you're shooting and when you're talking about all right, so you're going to be writhing in water, right? Let's just run with that. Is there a conversation about what level, or is it just a full kind of trust?
Yeah, well, I've worked with her since Crazy Enough, and so I've kind of grown used to filming her try to kind of continue to see them evolve and make them feel more, engaging and interesting and new for her and new for you each time. And I think she's very comfortable with her sexuality. She why wouldn't she be? And actually, I would say it's true that on this round, on this album, she was more ready to be over. I think I noted that it's sort of a particular moment in her life. She sort of had the baby, and she kind of wanted to make it clear that she was still very kind of beyond comfortable with. She was feeling like kind of making it clear that becoming a mum doesn't mean you're less hot. I think that she never sort of had that as like a manifesto, but I think it was clear to me that she actually kind of wanted to be even sexier than before in terms of, showing more skin, and also she's been through this process of sort of managing herself and taking more, increasing control over her own career and identity. And so I think there was a way when she was also like, I can't, I'm a grown woman, I can do whatever I like. And so she, and she was kind of enjoying being more playful with it and less inhibited than I'd ever seen her.
I'm going to wait for that one. I do have a question because you mentioned Jonas listening and responding to Superpower, and I'm wondering what about that song struck you when you heard it 50 years before you made the video?
No, I just really liked the song, and I did think it was very different from the typical Beyonce song that I had thought of. So I was very surprised when she played it for me. But I have to say, I really think that the main thing with this whole project is what Jake is saying here, because the time and that all the directors that worked on this were so fortunate to be in her life at this time, and the fact that she did so many videos in the row, I think that, she was on the road and the creativity was enormous. I've never seen any, it was an enormous overflow of creativity, and that kind of like works for all of us. It's like I wrote a lot of different ideas. It's never a shortage of different ideas, and I think that she really spread that energy to everything. I think that's what we see on the screen too.
I agree.
Yeah.
With it, I think there is something about the all-encompassing energy of doing it as one large piece, which is another part of why it's so unusual, that it's sort of, if she's constantly gestating new ideas, and all of you have said the words that she always challenges you to do better than, or to like surprise her with it. And then was there also something about the immediacy of it, like knowing that normally there's like one video and then maybe another video, and you may not have known all of the pieces, but did you get a sense of urgency of the idea of like process?
Yeah.
Just that, yes, Drea.
Well, I mean, usually music videos always come last in the agenda when musicians do their albums, but this was part of it from the beginning, which I think was good. But crunch time was always, for me at least, I don't know for you, but we were very last and we had very little time to get it ready.
They told us we were all last.
Only I know the truth.
It felt like she was making videos every day, every morning, every afternoon, with different people in different countries, and we were trying to like get as much as we could get for what we needed. Before she went off to get involved in something else, or she'd just come from something else. And it was like, I suppose, a bit more like the feeling of when someone's on a tour or something and they've got this kind of whole thing carrying on, and it carries on every day and keeps carrying on. That was kind of like, that was an unusual thing, because yes, normally a video, you're doing one and you're working on it for a week or whatever, working up to it. It's not like there's a lot going on. And then you're doing, we ended up doing Partition, and Grown Woman was ongoing, had been ongoing for a bit, and when then Partition came up relatively quickly, and there was kind of momentum about that, because I think at some point you guys got clear in your head that you were going to do this album as a visual album, and didn't necessarily really tell us all that that's what you were going to do. But we knew there was, we knew she was making a lot of videos and it was important, and I also knew that thing you said about the visuals being really important to her. I remember the first time I went to the studio in New York, and she had loads of pictures up, probably pictures that all of us have given her at different times, and some she's collected for herself. And it was kind of like, incredibly inspirational because she was in there recording the songs and playing the songs back for the first time and still sort of feeling her way out in terms of what would make the kind of sonic coherence of the record. And all around her were all these amazing images, many of her, but many just, you know, iconic representations of femininity and feminine power and all this stuff. So that was part of what was in there from the start. And in terms of it being like lots of stuff happening at the same time, I definitely remember having to go straight from Partition straight on to the next one, which had happened in the past, but we were catching up with ourselves. You know, we were getting in there onto Flawless, and we had it all kind of set up, and actually we didn't end up shooting that day because she wanted to kind of come back fresh the next day, which was kind of good because she really was like in the right zone. And I think sometimes it takes her a little bit of time to get into that zone, but when she's there, it's so sort of brilliant, you know, that you just think, well, you can take it, whatever. Where it doesn't matter how long it takes someone to get there if they come out that good. And you know, she always does. The thing that strikes me about her is that she always does sort of up the stakes of whatever you sort of bring to her and you have in your head, because it is our job to have some idea of an image that would be appreciated and would lock with the music and all that stuff, and then you know, we go through a process of talking to her about it and it gets approved, and then we get in there, and when it actually happens, it's always been the case that I've kind of thought, yes, it's better than I would have expected, and that's not always, and that's why she's a great person to work with, because you can't be sure of that with all artists, even if they are very successful and good at what they do. That is why I remember Hyde once said she's the best at what she does, and I do kind of believe that.
So I just have one more question. Will Beyonce be my best friend? I'll answer that for you, yes. I would love